Then I'm just going to wait a moment just to make sure that it's working. So it says I'm offline. Your game didn't save. I would go back and start watching yesterday's videos and catch up. So, this appears to be working. We're on here. That last thing that I didn't add in, which once you hover over a collectible, what should happen to that collectible? Just gameplay-wise, what do you think should happen?
It probably should disappear.
Yeah, it should disappear. And then how do we make things disappear in Construct?
Yeah, just gotta tell them to destroy.
Yeah, destroy. So grab collectible and then destroy. So that's the last piece of code that we have on there. And I move things off the layout because we're going to add in some code that makes them randomly spawn in there. But I'm going to move a couple things back just for testing for right now. So I'm going to grab my 3 enemies. And I grabbed my collectible, moved it onto the screen. I'm going to run this layout. It's like we're waiting in real time for it to start. Nope, it's over here. So there it is. So this is rotating. That looks actually kind of cool. These are moving back and forth. I'm underneath it. Maybe we should worry about Z order, maybe bring the player up to the top. And right here, overlapping, that one gets destroyed. But we're going to actually add a new piece to this. And that new piece is going to be on the layout. We're going through and adding in particles. We haven't done that before. But with the particles, it's actually pretty easy. So if you double click anywhere on the background and find particles, okay, it brings up our event sheet and it says which layer do we want to actually have it on. We want to have it on the player layer, okay? So we're going to make this thing called particles, and it's kind of like what happened in the Pac-Man code where when Pac-Man died, the bubbles kind of came out, and when the ghost died, the bubbles came out, and then they went away. So it's just going to be there as a visual cue that you collected things and you got things right. So we're going to add these particles to the player layer. We're going to set the size of the particles to 10 pixels by 10 pixels. And we're going to set the color to that off-white color. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here by control and scrolling up, and I'm just going to paint bucket that off-white color in there. And so now I have a square particle that's 10 by 10, but you'll see what the actual program does with it in a moment. From there, I don't want this just being called particles. I want to call it white particles. If I have white particles, what do you think logically is going to come later on in the code?
Different colors.
Different color particles for the enemy sprites. So when the enemy sprites kind of vanish off screen, that's where we're going to move. So we're going to call these white particles, and we're going to change some of the settings here. Okay? Under the properties, we're going to find, I want to make sure that I'm still streaming right. All right, under properties, we're going to find the spray cone, and that's the number of degrees in which it will be created. We want to up that to 360 degrees so that the particles spray all the way around. Underneath the type, we're going to change it to a one-shot. For the rate, we're going to increase it to around 200. But these numbers here, you can play with the numbers and find a way that you like it. I don't care what numbers you use so long as it's, I guess the only one I care about is the 360 one-shot. It's so that it sprays in all directions and it's only there. It's not going to continually spray on the screen. So some things, speed is at 200. We'll leave that one there. Size is at 32. I'm going to lower this down to 5. And then, let's see. We have some randomizers for to use. I don't remember which one it was. So I think it was the the speed randomizer. So was that speed randomizer, Mr. Picard, or was it something different? Because I wrote down randomizer, but there's like 4 of them. Speed randomizer, yep. So it's the speed randomizer. I'm going to set to 50. And then for acceleration, it's already at negative 150. And then an optional thing on here is this grow rate randomizer. Set that to negative 5. And let's drag that onto the screen and see what this actually does for us. So hopefully if I did everything right, we'll see it just one time, do a little explosion. That actually looked pretty cool. So if I refresh this, it'll be there. But what we want to happen is we want the particles to spawn like that every time we collect a white collectible object. So we're going to add another event on the event sheet. That event is going to be collectible on destroyed. So I'm going to find the collectible block. I'm going to find on destroyed. And the action I'm going to ask to happen is I'm going to ask the collectible to spawn another object. And that other object is going to be the particles white. So there's white particles, I named it. It's going to be on layer. I'm going to change this and go player layer. So I put the quotes in there to get the names to show up automatically. And then image point 0 is fine for that. So now if I run this again, those particles are there. So I have to remember to move them off the layout. So there's always not just an explosion when it starts up. But now when I drag around, as soon as I hit this, I'm going to get some feedback from the game that shows the particles are there. Yes?
What's the image point?
Image point was just 0. So it just spawns at the center of it. Okay? And then one feature I think we want to go back and add is on existing every tick. So we have every tick up at the top. I want to add an action. We rotate the enemy around clockwise. Let's rotate the player around counterclockwise so we can kind of see things moving around. Jacob, you with me? You're driving around with a car. Can you remove those car things on there and get the touch X, touch Y going? So on here, I'm going through and I'm going to say player, rotate counterclockwise. So I'm going to go the other way. And I'm going to do 1 degree with that every tick. So I'm adding that up here for every tick. So now we'll see not only does this enemy rotate, but now my player kind of rotates. It'll look a little bit cooler when we add our own custom things on there. Or maybe when you come up with a theme for the game, you won't want it to rotate at all. Okay? So we have the kind of basics of the game working. I'm going to go back to my layout. I'm going to move these particles off the stage so we don't see it. I'm going to move the enemies off the stage so I don't see them. And I'm going to move the collectible off the stage there. And what we're going to do next is we're going to work on adding in randomly spawning those things. Yes?
I have a small problem where I had the white square that was there show up and now it's not showing up.
All right.
Like it's supposed to be there, but it's not showing up. I put in the color and I never took it out.
Delete it, remake it. So, where I'm going to go next is we want to make a event that's going to randomly spawn enemy objects. So we're going to add a new event. It's going to be the system. And the system is every X seconds. And for X, we're going to add some randomness. So we'll say random from 0.2 seconds is our low end. We add a comma in there to, I don't know, 1.5. No, 0.2 seconds. 2 seconds I think is too low. I'm going to go 0.7 to 2.0. So that means randomly between 0.7 seconds and 2 full seconds, the event we're going to have is we're going to have the system create object is the command we're looking for. So I typed in the word create to get that. Create object. The object we want to create is this enemy rotate. And the layer I want to have it create on is the player layer. So I type in quotes there to get it to show up. And now here for the X and Y, this is where I want to decide and have it show up randomly. So for the X, I'm going to say random. 0 is the low range of the random, and then the layout width is our variable that takes us to the full size. So from that to layout width, and for our Y, it's going to be random 0 to, now I can't use layout width. What do I have to use for our Y? Anyone? Say it. Height. You are right. Thank you. Layout height. So now if I go and check this and run, I should get randomly specks floating that are starting to rotate around in different ways, and you know, eventually I'll have like an issue where this will just be filled up here and there'll be a lot of things going on. Okay? What we can do here to sort of streamline our work is we can copy this line of code twice. So I'm going to go Control-C with it selected, Control-V twice to paste it in. And I'm going to change this one from enemy rotate to enemy sign horizontal and enemy sign vertical. So there's, it's going to spawn an enemy sign horizontal. And then this one's going to randomly spawn an enemy sign vertical. So now this will add a little bit more variety in the game, where I'm no longer having just like one thing spawn. Now I've got like a couple of things to avoid. Okay. And some of the things are overlapping. We might add some code to do that. But you can see it's going to get very busy very quick. And it's going to be hard for me to navigate around in here. So we've got to think about something that's going to reduce the number of sprites that we have on there. Okay? So, we're going to add that one more time, and we're going to do it with the collectible. So I'm going to paste one more time, and our enemy rotate object, I'm going to change to collectible. And then for our random, I don't want the collectible spawning as much. I'm just going to say, let's not do a range. Let's just do every like 1.8 seconds have the collectible object spawn. So if I run this now, I know like about every 2 seconds something's going to have there for me to collect. So I'll be able to move around and things are still popping up on the screen. I've got to kind of dodge and avoid. And you can see it's going to fill up quickly. I did 1.8. You can do whatever you like, really, but I just did 1.8 because I thought it was better than 2 seconds. Okay? Now, I want to add a new event so that it's not so crowded on the stage. This new event is actually going to go to our old enemy families. And we're going to have enemies on created. So there's on created is the event. The action we're going to add is system wait. And we're going to wait, 5 seconds, 8 seconds. I'm just going to say random. 5 is the low, 8 is the high seconds. So it's going to wait 5 to 8 seconds, and then I'm going to actually ask it to destroy the family. Okay. I'm going to pause after this step, and I'll be right there to see. So let's see right now. Whoa. That was actually pretty cool. So now I can kind of move around and collect things, and every 5 to 8 seconds, the enemies should kind of disappear and give me different paths to try and go and get the collectibles as quickly as I can. So what I'm going to say for you right now, before we get going, I'm going to take a break, see where people are. See if you can figure out how to make black particles that appear when the family objects are destroyed. Make them a little bit smaller, though, so I think the white ones are a little bit big. So try and tweak those numbers and make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to pause the recording.